So, as many of you know, the weather has been very quiet recently, not only in the US, but around the whole world. So, in my spare time here, I figured I'd make some hypothetical tornado outlooks, and I even posted them in a YouTube short the other day, and asked if you guys would like to see a full video about them. Well, that video got almost 1,000 views as of the time I am recording this, and a couple of you actually commented saying they were great and wanted a full video about them. So in this video, I'm going to discuss them more in depth, and hopefully you guys enjoy this while the weather isn't very active. So anyways, let's get straight into this video. So, as you see here, I have several of these outlooks. You can see there's a couple of them that say like 2027 more tornado, or primordial outbreak, or tornado like 1. I'm not going to go over those in this video because those are going to be for different videos of the future potentially, or I'm just not going to go over them at all because they're kind of outdated in some ways. But the first one I'm going to look at is new outlook style. So you can see here quickly, you can see there's a 15% tornado risk in this outlook across mainly central and eastern Oklahoma into eastern, a little bit of central Kansas, and you can see, I believe it's a SIG-free area actually from eastern Kansas into eastern Oklahoma. So basically, if you do not know, this is part of the new conditional intensity groups from the Storm Prediction Center that were rolled out earlier this year. It's kind of complicated, but basically it's used to show this is the probabilities, but this is how intense things could be if something happens. So SIG-3 is usually for violent tornado potential, SIG-2 is intense tornado potential, SIG-1 is strong tornado potential. Just so you know, for future outlooks I'm going to show, the 10% tornado risk in this outlook extends from northern Texas all the way into southeastern Nebraska and southwestern Iowa. And you can see the other tornado outlooks here, the tornado probabilities. So basically how this would work, you can see there's kind of a sharp cutoff right here. That's because this would be kind of a dry line setup with a lot of CAPE, around 3 to 4,000 joules per kilogram, and a lot of low-level wind here, around 50 to 60 knots, and plenty of moisture with like humidity in like 90 to 95% range. So very moist environment out there. Temperatures would likely be around mid-70s to low 80s with dew points in the upper 60s to mid-70s, so very good dew points there, and there would be a lot of good conditions for this, but obviously it wouldn't be the best environment since it's only at 15%. That means there's not quite enough storms to warrant a higher tornado risk, but obviously still looks pretty significant here. The next one I'm going to go over is called localized outbreaks. So you can see this was made the same day as the last one. But this one is much more localized actually. You can see actually there's a 10% tornado risk from kind of southern and central Oklahoma there all the way to north central Texas. You can see the SIG-2 area from the DFW area all the way to central and southern Oklahoma there. The 5% tornado risk extends from like southwestern Missouri, southeastern Kansas, much of Oklahoma into northeastern Texas. There you can see the 2% tornado risk as well. So basically this would be more of a kind of lower end setup, but still could have a few significant strong to intense tornadoes. So basically this one would more have temperatures in like the mid to upper 70s with dew points in the mid to upper 60s here, so still a great environment, but not as good as it could be. And the CAPE would be around 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kilogram, which is a lot, but that's not nearly as much as they could have there. And also there would be about like 40 or 50 knots of lower level wind shear, so not as good as the other one, but still a significant tornado threat. And most of this tornado threat would be after dark when the temperature's lower, but the dew points are still high, so that could lead to a higher tornado threat overnight. Otherwise it'd probably be only like a 5% SIG-1. But I think this is one of my favorite outlooks they've made because it's not like super big. You can actually see all the details of it. It's pretty nice, I think. So, the next one I'm going to go over here is called Super Outbreak. This was made on May 22nd. It's called Super Outbreak for a reason. Let me just open this up for you. Immediately, you see a 15 and 30% tornado risk across, well, the 30% is across northern into southern Oklahoma and into north central Texas. And you have a SIG-free area from north central Texas into central Oklahoma, where we could have a strong to intense to even violent tornadoes and a widespread area of significant storms. Of over 50% tornado risk is from southeastern Kansas all the way into northeastern Texas, and our SIG-2 area expands from eastern Nebraska in western Iowa all the way down into northeastern Texas. And you can see the fault, look here, it's insanely huge. This is like a full-on super outbreak. This is why it's called that. Now, there is a 45 or 60% tornado risk, but already with a 30% SIG-free area, I'm pretty sure that's bad enough. There would be like 6,000 to 7,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, along with temperatures in the low to mid 70s, with dew points reaching into the upper 60s and low 70s, along with around 60 to 70 knots of lower level wind shear. Maybe some areas could get closer to 80. So this would be a very, very, very good environment. There would be a ton of other stuff. This would be kind of a dry line setup, but there would also be a morning line of storms that produces several tornadoes from here all the way up into here, even up towards like Minneapolis and Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Iowa area too. You could see a few morning tornado warnings. So this would be a very bad setup. So hopefully you guys like this one. The next one I'm going to go over is called Primordial Outbreak. And as you guys can guess, there's a reason it's called Primordial Outbreak. If you don't know what that means, you're about to figure out. Basically, 3 different main areas of severe weather. You have one across western New York, western Pennsylvania, northern Ohio, into southeastern Michigan, with a SIG-1 area there for a 5% tornado risk. So we can see a few tornadoes, maybe 1 or 2 strong out there. Then there's a 5% tornado risk all the way from eastern Tennessee all the way into northern Alabama and central Mississippi, and there's a SIG-1 area surrounding that where you can see a couple strong tornadoes. And then we even have another area all the way back here from western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas there, and there is a SIG-1 area as well there where a strong tornado or 2 would be possible. This actually took a while to make compared to some of the other ones, such as Larry Primordial, and I had to think outside the box of how to make this without making it a super significant tornado break. Basically, the CAPE would be around 700 to 1,500 joules per kilogram of instability there. The dew points would be around the upper 50s to mid 60s, with temperatures in the low 60s to maybe the mid 70s there. And the low level wind speeds, the low level wind shear would be maybe around 40 to 50 knots in some of these areas. So not as good as it could be, but still a decent environment if storms did form out there. So, this next one, which was made on the same day as several of these other ones, is called the May Plains Outbreak. Can you guess what's going to happen when I click on this? Straight to the 15% tornado risk, which covers much of central and east Oklahoma into north central Texas, including the Fort Worth, Dallas area, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls. The 10% tornado risk extends from southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri, extreme western Arkansas, into northeastern Texas and eastern central Oklahoma. Then we have a SIG-2 area from southeastern Kansas all the way into north central Texas. You can see the fallout look here is actually much bigger, but highest probabilities actually don't cover a huge area compared to the other risk areas. And this was actually kind of hard to make because I had to think like what could happen with this. But you can see this was also kind of a dry line setup, but not significant. The CAPE would be around 2,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram in the highest risk areas. There would be about 50 to 60 knots of lower level wind shear, and the dew points would be in the upper 60s to low 70s, with temperatures in the low 70s to mid 70s. So a very good setup here, but could be a little better with some other stuff. That's why it's not a high risk, and the risk area isn't extending all the way into like eastern Nebraska or all the way down towards Houston. So this next one, which is the last one made on May 22nd, is called October Outbreak. And this is basically kind of more a fall setup rather than like a tornado season setup. So it's going to be a little bit different in the meteorology. But you can see 50% risk area from northeastern Kansas into southeastern Nebraska and southwestern Iowa. You have the SIG 2 area from northern Iowa into eastern Nebraska all the way into eastern Kansas. And you can see the full outlook here is pretty big. So with this, you would have around 1 to 2,000 joules per kilogram of instability, but the wind shear would be around 60 to 80 knots, so that's why the tornado risk would be so high, because with fall setups, you usually don't need as much instability, and there will also be dew points around the low to mid 60s with temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s, so higher temperatures for that time of year, but still these storms would be surface-based and would be capable of strong to intense tornadoes as well, so this would also be a pretty significant outbreak as well. Next, I'm going to look at September outbreak, which is similar to October outbreak, but in September. So basically, you can see the tornado risk. Main tornado risk area is from northern Iowa into eastern Nebraska all the way into eastern Kansas. SIG 3 area from southwestern Iowa into southeastern Nebraska and eastern Kansas. 10% tornado risk extends from northwestern Wisconsin all the way into central Oklahoma. You have the SIG 2 area from southeastern Minnesota all the way into northern western Missouri into northwestern Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, central Oklahoma there. So the very large area under the tornado risk in this outlook. You can see the 2% tornado risk is quite huge. I actually just remember making this yesterday because I did as of the time I'm recording this video. But it's a very nice outlook. It's more of a cold front setup. That's why it's not as sharp as it would be if it's a dry line setup, but still a couple of violent tornadoes would be possible with this event, especially from southwestern Iowa into southeastern Nebraska all the way into eastern Kansas. The instability would be about 3 to 4,000 joules per kilogram with wind shear around 60 to 70 knots across a large area, and as well as dew points in the mid to upper 60s with temperatures in the upper 60s to mid 70s. So very good dew points, everything there, but not quite worthy of a high risk of severe weather just due to the fact that storms aren't going to be as widespread as they would need to be here. The final hypothetical outlook I made, I'm going to discuss this northern outbreak, which is the last one I've made as of now. You can see there's a 10% tornado risk across southeastern Minnesota into northwestern Wisconsin all the way into the western upper peninsula of Michigan. The 2% or 5% tornado risk extends from the central upper peninsula of Michigan with the Canadian border there all the way into northern Iowa. You have the SIG 2 area from mainly southeastern Minnesota into the western upper peninsula of Michigan. Not much else to talk about here. The instability would likely be around, I would say, 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram with wind shear of around 50 to 60 knots in the lower levels and dew points around mid to upper 60s with temperatures of the low 70s to mid 70s. So not bad, but could be better, and overall the storm coverage would just be too isolated for a higher risk of severe weather. But this one I really like because it's not super high probabilities, but it's still capable of a significant tornado break if everything went right, if the setup really occurred. Anyways, that is the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications so that you can follow my channel and be notified when I have a new video out. I also have some other Google Earth projects and some hypothetical tornado paths I've made if you'd be interested in seeing a video about those. And I will have more weather forecasts and weather time lapses and weather live streams when more stuff happens, because the weather is just too quiet right now. But I will see you all in the next YouTube short or YouTube video. Goodbye.